Call the meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Littlestown Area School Board Directors. This is a meeting of the board taking place in the public in accordance with the Sunshine Act. District residents who wish to address the board required to sign up, provide public comment at least 5 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. Public participation will occur only when the designated public comment portion of the agenda. Disruptions, interruptions, outbursts, or disorderly conduct of any kind will not be tolerated. By attending or commenting publicly this meeting, you are consenting to the district's recording, retention, and future viewing of this meeting. This meeting is also being live streamed as a convenience to the public. In the event the live stream fails or cannot be transmitted for any reason, the in-person meeting will continue without interruption. Tom, could you please call roll?
Jeannie Ewan.
Here.
Nick Lovell.
Here.
Donna Bayless.
Here.
Stephen Yerger.
Here,
Present.
please pledge allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We now recognize members of the public who have signed up to provide comment as stipulated policy 903. When your name is called, please approach the podium. State your name, confirm you're a resident or taxpayer of the district, topic of discussion for the record. Public comment is limited to matters of district business only. Comments that are not relative to the district business that or may be before the board will be suspended. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer and not to individual board members or administrators. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes or less. The privilege to speak may be interrupted, revoked, or a recess of the meeting may be called by the chair if the speaker fails to adhere to board policy and does not observe reasonable decorum or orderly conduct. Thank you. Bradley?
Good evening. My name is Bradley Kiefer. I'm a resident, parent, and taxpayer. I want to talk about the next 5 years, not just next year's budget, because the 3% tax increase being discussed tonight does not solve the problem. It kicks the can down the road 12 more months. I've spent several weeks analyzing the district's finances using every public document available, and the central finding is this: Littlestown does not have a multi-year financial strategy. It's pretty clear. So I want to offer one tonight. So let me start with where the money goes, because the public needs to understand this. Of the $44.9 million this district will spend next year, 92 cents of every dollar is already committed. Salaries and benefits, 28 million, debt services for the renovation, 4 million, a year through 2051, special education, cyber charter tuition, 5.4 million, healthcare is up 10%, PSERS set by the state. The board controls roughly 8 cents of every dollar for supplies, curriculum, technology, and athletics. So when someone says, as a result of this, just cut the budget, the honest answer is there isn't much left to cut. Unless we start to really affect students. So now here's the harder conversation. Leadership turnover in this district has created a cycle where every new administration resets the vision, commits new dollars, and then leaves before the plan's finished. The result is $108 million in legally binding debt obligations that are coming due, regardless of who sits in the seats before me. The question now is whether this community will fund what has already been committed while protecting the educational rights of our students. So here's what the numbers say. The district projects a $3.44 million structural deficit. To be fair, that isn't the real number, right? This district under forecasts state revenue consistently. It's not any fault. You have to be conservative in that. Realistic projections would say that the working deficit is probably closer to 1.3 million. And if you increase taxes by 4.5% as well. So tonight you're going to hear about a 3% increase that generates $554K. Mandatory new costs next year alone are $892,000. The 3% does not even cover the new mandated expenses, let alone the existing gap. It buys 12 months and nothing more. This behavior has led to this budding financial crisis because this is the behavior that the board continues to operate under. A 4.5% increase generates $817K, but you need to combine it with $500K in targeted cuts to staff, healthcare costs through CBA renegotiations, contracted services overhead, and that closes that $1.3 million gap and keeps reserves above the 5% policy minimum to not violate your own policy. More importantly, it creates a foundation for a real plan. So here's a plan, one that I've yet to hear from the board. Maybe a 3-year plan. It might not be right, but it's better than what I've heard so far. Approve a 4.5% increase, implement a $500,000 in non-classroom cuts, defer the baseball complex, and hire a superintendent who understands fiscal turnaround and can hold a vision through leadership transition. Year 2, increase taxes at the index. Deliver $400K in structural savings through CBA renegotiation of healthcare redesign, possibly look at a district virtual academy to reduce cyber charter costs, begin design on the rescoped baseball complex, or maybe defer it in and of itself indefinitely because it's $1 million. Final efficiencies show up in year 3 when we start to actually see balance come back into the budget and reserves are then rebuilt toward the 8% target. So to the public, I know you heard this and you're all panicking, and I know it's hard, but to the people in this community on fixed incomes, every dollar matters, and that 4.5% on a $300,000 home is $1,523 a month. I don't minimize that, but weigh it against the alternative. 2 years of inaction means reserves hit 0, if even less time than that, followed by emergency tax increase because the math is going to continue to go up and continue to need to be increased from an income perspective. Or you're going to have to start cutting into programs that are producing some of the educational results that the people of this town like. This isn't hypothetical. This is real math. You all can sit here disengaged looking at your computers, or we can understand how math works. The real question is simple. Are we willing to invest in the future of our students and the stability of our schools? Or are we going to keep deferring it for this next year until someone else inherits worse conditions next year? This isn't blaming anyone on this board. Mr. Shovaker does great work. The teachers are producing great results. The challenge is structural. Years of leadership turnover and short-term budgeting and short-sightedness have left this district without a long-term strategy. Fixing it requires a superintendent with fiscal discipline, a board that commits to a transparent multi-year plan and communicates that to the community so they understand that this isn't just a tax increase for the sake of a tax increase. I have a 28-page analysis behind every number that I've cited. I'll share with any board member or any community member who wants it. Yes, I am that kind of nerd, but that's how I run my own business. The district is at an inflection point. The choices made in the next 6 months will determine whether Littlestown controls its financial future or gets controlled by it. We are on the path to insolvency like neighboring districts, but we still have time to address it if you have a plan. Increase taxes 4.5%, cut spending by $500K, defer the baseball project, stop kicking the can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Tom.
If you can pull up the PowerPoint then. So tonight, we're going.
What's the thing that's supposed to
There was no
I
information
put it
on
in
there.
there. Well, I told Tom I put it in.
You didn't fill it out like everybody fills it out. Mr. Kiefer filled it out. He filled it out properly. You didn't fill it out properly. So we're moving on. Thank
He
you.
communicated to Tom, and I have comments on the financial thing.
Okay, Tom, please start your presentation.
All right, well, this is a waste of time. I'm so sick of you all. Really am.
So tonight, we're just gonna look at the full budget since we didn't have track work for a couple months. So we're gonna have an in-depth look at it totally. We'll tell them what's in the budget, what got cut out of the budget. We'll go through that. So right here is a snapshot of total expenditures and total revenues with a 0% tax increase reflect. With that shows a $3.44 million deficit. What's in expenditures and those total revenues will be in the next subsequent slides. This is what we're looking at as a total view of the budget. What the most concerning part is from a business manager standpoint is our estimated unassigned fund balance that was just done through the audit was 3.33 million. That leaves us with a shortfall of 108,000 to balance the budget. The committee and the board will have to come up with strategies to fix that 108,000, and we can discuss some of that as we move forward to tell us what's in and out of the budget to address that. But that's the big item we want to get off and work off the plate tonight and work forward through this conversation. So that's what it looks like right now. So just shy of 45 million for expenditures, just shy of 41.5 million for revenues. So I guess I just want to pause there for any questions. It's the first time I know the committee members got some breakdowns to review prior to here, but any questions, I guess, real quick before we jump into some analysis of this.
Well, I think we'll have questions as we go.
Okay. All right, so what's in the revenue? What makes up that $41.5 million? So of the local revenue, that's about 58% of our budget. And of that, most of that is real estate taxes. So right now we have a current millage rate of 13.5387. The most notable increase in local revenue is last year we looked at interest earnings. My analysis was with the way the federal government and federal bank was looking at interest rates. It looked like they were going to go down a lot quicker. This year, that looks like maybe more of a steady. So we bumped that back up 150,000 as the interest earnings. Earned income has been pretty flatlined. We saw exponential uptick during the COVID years, and now the past 2 years, actually 3 years, we've been pretty static around that $5.2 million mark. State revenues, you can see we base it off of current year, so 25-26 was approved in there. The biggest jump is the ready to learn adequacy. Mentioned that a couple times. I believe that's the new way we are going to receive dollars here at the district. Basic ed subsidy has gotten less and less each year, with most of the money going to that ready to learn grant. Within that, Dr. Berryman and I look at all those requirements and what that can be allocated to. The most recent time was a lot of the new pilots and curriculum-based stuff that we can attribute those dollars towards to help offset that funding. So state right now is based off of current year. If we get more information or have some more solid definitive of what they're going to do for next year, we'll update that. Right now in Harrisburg, we don't really have too much knowledge of where that's going to go. And then the federal income is 1%, and that is almost net neutral. I think it's $600 more than prior. So right now, we're not expecting any additional federal income. But as you can see, it's the smallest bucket in.
So if we could start with the real estate tax.
Yeah.
We asked this question last year, but I'm going to ask it again.
Mhm.
Have you looked at the houses that are being built at Mayberry and put,
So what I do every year, we get a tax assessment from the county in February that shows what the next year's assessment or what everybody's assessed at. I update that number annually. So anybody who has an assessed value on the rolls gets updated.
but you don't talk to Mayberry and find out how many houses they're going to be building the next year?
No, because
So that's 6,000 a house.
even if they would tell me, there's nothing to hold them to that. That's still a guess on their part, how many they're going to build, how many are going to sell from their.
So you don't know how many are already built into last year's that were new last year?
They would be built in. So right now I can tell you from last year to this year, we only had a 0.5% assessed value growth across the district. We were getting close to 1% assessed value growth. Now we're starting to tick back down. So we're getting close to that 0.6, 0.5% assessed value. So yes, they get captured every year. That's why we update those numbers. And if I get a new one, they might update it, I'll update those. So those are the most accurate numbers.
So you compared February, what came into last year's budget or last year's actual, I mean?
No, so what I do is I take the assessed values that come in February. It says this is your market value or assessed value for your entire district. I use that number per municipality and I put that in and I put exactly what we expect to get from those revenues at the criteria. So remember the criteria is it's 96% because that's our typical collection rate. And then less is homestead, farmstead, what we do out of that. So that's what that number reflects. It's an accurate number as of February on assessed value. So any market, any house that's sold as of February would be updated in this number.
Okay.
And that's every year they send that out annually just because school districts want that information. Yeah.
And then for the state revenue, Governor Shapiro just proposed a state budget with education increases.
Yes.
You don't even put any of that in there.
That's a board discretion item. From my position, we historically not because The only thing we can count on is the hold harmless, which we've stated. If the board wishes to reflect that, we can more than happy reflect that in a budget. I think the opposite side of the coin can also be true, is that we get less funding than what we anticipated.
Well,
So-
here's our issue. We keep having $1 million, we had $3 million surplus. And then, but you budget a deficit and then raise taxes, and then we end up with another surplus. So how do you keep having surpluses every year and then say we're going to raise taxes?
So
We
last
keep
year,
having
when
surpluses.
we look at the audit for 24, 25 as a prime example, our expenditures came on almost exactly what we budgeted. But our revenues, I talked about this one time, we had almost $1 million worth of interest when it was only 450,000, I think, budgeted. So that was a one-off. We had some one-off gains from the state. We didn't, so those one-offs do help. So the state is perpetual, but the interest earnings are not. That's a one-time use. That goes to fund balance that we can use hopefully for some other one-time expenditures. So yes, we have had some significant gains. Some of that was ESSER funding. We were able to supplant a lot of stuff with the ESSER funding.
Not last year.
What I'm saying is you brought up the 3 months, so 2 or 3 years ago, that was ESSER funding got us, but last year there was no ESSER funding, and that was.
I thought we spent all that ESSER funds.
We did at the end of 2024. So last year, when 2025 audit, that was without any ESSER funding whatsoever. And with that extra, when I talked about it in November, I showed what was those one-time gains. And a lot of it was a revenue side. That's where we gained $1.5 million of revenue, and a big chunk of that was the state. But yes, if we look at the expenditures, I think it was like a couple $100,000 less than what we expected. It was pretty close.
Does anybody have any comments on our revenue?
Well, so we don't have any, I understand that it's typically not what we do to put it in the budget, but do we have any projections for what the governor's budget would look like, or if a scaled back deal would look like from the legislature?
We could put it in there. You just have to tell me what.
I mean, if we could at least, not necessarily 100% put it in the budget, but at least see what it could potentially look
Yeah,
like for
so
us.
if you remember the 3-year projections, I have the breakdown. They put basically the whole part, they actually put 1% for state funding through forward. So that was it. We go through that when those assumptions, that's what that breakdown involved. So we can put as much or as little as you want, and we can project that forward, and I can update. But I see how much the board's comfortable putting in.
I mean, if we at least see analysis, it'll help us make better decisions.
I just need a number, essentially. What's the comfortability level? Are we going exactly to the governor, what he just proposed? Are we doing 10%, 20%? Like,
I mean, we could have different columns of percentages and see what it would look like.
I'm asking which percentages? How much? How many scenarios?
I mean, you don't have, seriously?
I'm
So you don't analyze when he puts out a proposed budget, you don't do any kind of analysis at all?
We look at last year and we put it in and we talk about what could happen if it went through, but we never put it in our projections.
So
That is a board decision, and we want, that could be projections. I'm not. It's just what we have done, hold harmless, and that's what most districts do, because that is the guarantee it as a district. It's the least amount of revenue that we're gonna get.
It's the guarantee, but it's never the case. And I don't think that we should
I
go
would
to the
say-
community and raise taxes on something that's never the case.
But it was the case in 2021. They just did it in 2021. They pulled the hold harmless. So it is in a recent term, right before COVID, that they did, like during COVID, they did this.
But then they gave us ESSER funds and we had tax.
But that was that was an unexpected federal government.
right. the
Yes.
balance That's the answer, so that you're coming into.
Yeah.
You want to have hold harmless, but you need to have taxpayers in some way, shape, or form being able to be informed to be able to say, okay, if this is what our state is doing, is there some kind of feel to be able to at least have an idea so that there's planning involved? There was, public comment about planning. So we're asking if there is a way to look down the road, see what they're saying.
What are you saying?
Nobody guarantees anything, but you can give a percentage.
100% there is. I just need a direction from the committee on what they want to see as a projection.
I think Donna had something.
That's all I'm asking.
I actually have a couple things.
Yep.
But are you two done?
We're just doing revenue right now. And then we'll move on to expense. Do you have anything for revenue?
Okay, so yeah, I have a couple questions. In regards to contracts for builds, Jeannie had talked about one of the developments in regards to how many new houses were sold. Do they ever share with you, for example, any contracts that houses they might have under contract but not built yet?
So the only time we see houses is when they actually transfer ownership. So with Mayberry, they're under Mayberry's umbrella because they bought it.
Mhm.
When that transfers, that's the first notice we get when they transfer ownership. Just like if any current existing home, we only get notified when a transfer happens. Then we get transfer tax and we get to do interim and the whole wheels start turning once they sign the dotted line to transfer ownership of the house.
Right, but to try to plan ahead, to try to see in regards to future funding coming into the district.
Hmm.
A couple things would be to try to get a hold of, find out how many, and you could do this at any point in time, depending upon how it would best suit.
I called last year. They said 10 to 12 houses a year and a base house, which is about 400,000 if they don't have any bells and whistles, brings in 6,000 a house in revenue to us.
Okay, but that's a good start.
Right.
But to call each year and just check to,
So they say it's about a 10-year project,
okay, well,
200 homes,
the other thing is,
and 2 million.
do we follow, and these are just questions, no arrows here, okay? I'm not shooting any arrows. I'm just asking questions. Do we follow the sale of any land within our district? Do we follow the sale of the land and do we follow the sale of the land and then application for permits for new builds? Do we do that?
We get a pamphlet every year that showcases that, but we don't actively, except for a transfer report, because we don't actively know when developments, they don't come and tell us unless a realtor know that.
Right, no one's gonna tell you, but if you make a couple phone calls, you can find this information out. Like, and I think it would be Gettysburg, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it would be Gettysburg in regards to land purchases or land sales, and then also permits to build.
So, but when land sells, we get obviously that transfer, but when the next steps are, we don't follow that process.
I think we should look into that. I mean, I know it's gonna be more work for you guys, but in the future, for long term, I think it's gonna give the district a better idea of the growth, not only the revenue, possible incoming revenue for the district, but also growth on how many more seats you'll have for your schools. And the last thing is, and then I'll go to the chart. Do we follow and you're gonna think I'm crazy for this, but I'm really not. Do we follow the record of births for our county or for our district? I guess the better word would be district.
The live births?
Yes.
That would be I would defer to,
We get the census.
I was gonna say, I knew we get it, but I don't.
It's not the same though.
That's usually an education.
Yeah, we just get an updated census every year.
Here's right.
If there's something that they send
Project
every
enrollment.
year.
Yeah, they give
To project enrollment and also,
Yeah.
yeah,
We'll talk about that when we get.
yes, because that would also help you in regards to where, when you look at the record of live births, where the students are coming from, and then see if we're losing revenue because, for example, they're a renter as opposed to an owner of a house.
Well, the house still has to pay the taxes.
Yeah.
It's just, and it'll be built into the rent. I mean, the homeowner who's renting the house out still
Right.
has to pay the tax. So we're not losing anything when the house is a rental.
But I think,
Do you understand what I'm saying?
yeah, we agree. I think I agree with everything.
But yeah,
And
we just have,
Jean
we were.
was saying,
that when we-
were too, was agreeing with the fact of looking into try to projecting Mayberry into different developments. But it doesn't sound like the district currently does that. Just,
Well, and land sales, I'm selling you land sales / purchases with applications for new builds. That, it won't give us the number we're gonna need for this, okay? It's not gonna give us a number for our budget right now. but it would help in the future, I think, and it might help you with your numbers when you have to sit down and project what we're gonna have for a budget.
So maybe what we could do is, I appreciate, Tom, when you say you look for, as from a budgeting standpoint, you look for a year back of actual documented information and data. But I think, is there a possibility with this new idea and thought of looking at possible revenue streams? I mean, some of these over 50, 55, I mean, Stoner.
Stoner's
various
finished.
things.
Stoner's finished.
Okay, so these are people that are paying into the district and they're not using funds out of the district by having students
Right.
enrolled. Now, that has a plus and also has a minus. Because we are looking for enrollment, we're looking to do, to make sure we're providing the best education we can. And be fiscally sound. So looking at kind of outside the box and looking at revenue streams for projections, I think is a healthy thing to do, because then what it does is it keeps us from maybe getting narrow-sighted when we're looking at the budget here, planning purposes to be able to move forward. Comments from Will Pay.
Thank you.
So those assumptions I had broken down. So it had a 0.5% assessed value. That's where we are heading.
Okay,
In the scheme of things, that 0.5% will probably capture most of Mayberry, because that currently is capturing Mayberry. That's where our most recent assessed value growth is. We also have 1% in every other revenue category. 0% I had as a real estate tax increase for the next 3 years on those projections, but 1% everywhere else. So we would get 1% on EIT, 1% on interest earnings, 1% on the state, whether that comes to fruition or not. But those are the assumptions, because those are just what we have to go for. It wasn't a 0% flat line the whole way through. It was percentage increases. It was projected for. It just wasn't bucketed the way the board is requesting, or maybe to the levels the board is requesting, but it is projected for, and it is projecting some growth. And the same thing with expenses. It's also projecting growth, and I had those assumptions on here, what those factored in. Go ahead.
yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
I apologize. Can we go over the numbers on this particular chart for just a second?
Go ahead.
So on your local revenue,
Mhm.
start at the top and work down. You got 23,943,000. Under real estate interest and earned income tax, are those supposed to come out to 23 million? I mean, how,
These are just the three biggest revenue streams that
Okay.
district has.
okay,
So we also have interim, we also have per capita, we have
okay,
transfer tax, delinquents. We have a bunch of other items in local revenue. Those are just the three biggest. I didn't put them all on the slide. Like I said, the committee had the breakdown if you wanted to see what the other ones made up. Yeah.
okay.
So the blue line is a grand total. The ones underneath are the largest funding sources usually within that breakdown.
Thank you.
Go over expenses.
So this is the first look at some of the expenses. So one of our largest costs is we're people-oriented service. So this is our largest cost is salary benefits. So with that growth, you can see 24-25 actual, and then what the budgeted amount was, so the difference between those two, and the growth within those two budgets and this most recent proposed. On the right side is the healthcare breakdown. You can see what the health insurance, dental and vision insurance. Right now we have a 10% increase in there. We've had 10% for the past 2 years. We're not sure what that will be. That always gets set May. So the next time we meet, we'll have a actual number. But right now that's a placeholder is 10% assumption on healthcare increases.
When's the last time you looked into getting new insurance?
So we do that every year. They go out to market for us. The carrier is normally we only change those every few years because we don't, that's a big change and we just changed last year. from Highmark to Capital. And that saved us a lot of fees and a lot of, we were able to customize it and reduce costs. That was a big change. But we do pay a company to go out to market for us on both healthcare carriers, stop loss, carve out, prescription benefit carve out. That's all part of the package, and that'll be part of when we discuss on renewal of what that looks like in May.
So the, I know you like to talk about the 3.1% salary increases. What, with enrollment going down, staffing, classroom assumptions, reductions, is there any kind of are you looking at that?
So that will be part of a slide that we'll talk about here. If you want to pause on that, we'll talk about that here coming up, about what we did for those budget attritions. I guess just salary benefits, it's just one of our 63% pretty much of the budget just is with salary benefits.
I just have a couple questions. On your personnel, costs represent 63% of your operating expenses. What do those personnel costs break down to? Your health, dental, vision, your total benefit package, salary package?
Yeah,
These
so
are-
so within the benefits.
And OPEB.
They would have, they would have your social security FICA, they would have your PSERS,
Mhm.
they would have all the contractual obligation for benefits, so our HSA funding, they would have all the healthcare packages, they would have tuition reimbursement, retiree insurance, if they qualify for that as the incentive, if they meet the years of, and then for salaries, it would be all the salaries of standard employees and or substitutes.
So do you analyze like the aging of our staff? So, because the retirements, they will retire at a higher and then
Yep.
we'll bring in
Keep-
new
We
teachers
keep
at
an
a lower.
active spreadsheet of the
Is that
top
something?
5 or 6 that are close to retirement, yes. That's
And,
an every year look at.
and you know what salaries the new people will come in and how much that will save us?
Yeah, so when we replace somebody, we replace them at the salary somebody left.
What?
We always do. So we can pick a different part of the scale, but that's what we always do is when somebody leaves, that's what they get, they put the next placement. So when we look at the autism classroom, we always project the ceiling for.
Yeah, they're not getting necessarily paid.
They're not
that.
getting paid
It's in
that.
the budget like that.
It's
in the
budgeted, just in case they
Wow.
come in with the same amount.
Yeah.
I knew what you thought.
Oh my
I'm
God.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so when somebody
You go to
leaves,
college and come
No.
to a
Yeah.
job.
if somebody leaves,
another
the
college degree.
placeholder, the vacancy is at what that person left at. If it's a starting salary, it gets placed at a starting salary. If it's somebody at the top of the scale, it gets to the top. And it just, that's.
So the salaries are inflated to a degree.
The vacancies are usually at the higher end of the vacancies. The current employees are obviously all in current.
Well, yeah.
But we currently, I think, only have 6 or 7 vacancies
Mhm.
at the moment.
But you know people that are close to retirement.
I think the only teacher vacancy we have right now is the autism, potential autism. All the other ones are supports.
When you do that one-for-one
We just-
replacement, how is that reflected then in the next year's budget? Do you bring it back down to where it's
Yeah, so
neutral?
instantly when somebody gets hired, so when we hire somebody, if it's a current vacancy, we hire somebody at the April board meeting, that'll be reflected instantly in the budget and updated to their current salary.
Okay, so that kind of looks like you're padded out and then you run back to actual.
Yeah, we put a placeholder in for what the vacancy is, and then when they come, they go down to actual. We've also had people with actual, they come in higher.
So the assumption is we're thinking we're gonna go be here and then the actual salary is here.
Actually.
And you don't reflect that. So you got this in here in this range that is speculative. And you're trying to project. And at the same time, we're trying to be fiscally responsible in those projections.
And you had said that the autism classroom, you're projecting that at the highest part of the
Yeah, when
salary.
we got to that was gonna be highlighted, yeah.
So we hired somebody ready to,
No, I'm saying is the vacancy currently within the budget is reflected of.
okay. And then back to what I said, okay, wait a minute, you said it's okay, coming up, never mind, move on. I'm
Do
ready.
we know what our turnover trend is?
Data.
How about our retirement trend?
That's what I was saying.
You mean how many retirees? We document that, yes.
I mean, do you know how many we have normally, like an average per year?
I can only speak to the ones that I've been here. It's only been two to three
A year?
2 to 3,
retirees.
okay, not 2 to 3%.
No, 2 to 3 people.
Gotcha.
2 to 3 years of retirees.
We have a lot of teachers right now in their 20-year
Yeah.
range.
We have a lot that are, yeah,
Eligible.
And they're 20, yeah, so
Eligible for
we have very few that are in the 30 to 35 range.
So when you say a lot of, like, would that be
20,
Quarter of our
25, 30.
25, 30 teachers?
If you remember back, this was back when there was a strike, there were a lot of teachers left our district and we hired a lot of, that's that.
Okay,
happened that time.
okay, that bubble's coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a plan for that? A staffing plan for that, whenever we need to use that?
We've internally discussed, but at the moment, no, because normal retirement's usually 30 years of service. So yes, we've internally discussed that far projection now.
You ever had surprises?
Surprise retirements, yes. I would say one of two that we get make her happy surprise. It's all personal, based off of where they feel they're ready for retirement. Any other salary benefits?
Are our mandated benefits controlled by our contractual agreements?
Yes.
You already told us, I think, that, we put our healthcare, requirements out for bid every year?
Yeah, they go to market every year to market rates. The carrier of health insurance, the main carrier, we do not fluctuate often because it's a heavy fluctuation, but what we carve out, we do market every year.
Okay. And thank you. Just one more question. Thank you for putting up with my questions. Do we ever try to jump on another bid on another county, like piggyback on a bid from another school district?
So the only place that I know of is a consortium with the IU, which would be Lincoln Benefit Trust, where the main districts, or one of the few that aren't part of it. That was a prior district administration to go out on our own and be self-funded.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, so we were part of the LBT and then we were part of a different consortium when self-funded. That was right prior to me starting.
So that environment then for that decision of self-funding, is there a reevaluation of that? Because the market changes, the economy changes.
So with self-funded, there's good and bad. The good is the good years, you get less claims and you pay less and you get the, as part of the consortium is that tries to keep it even and you try to mitigate the losses of some districts and the gains of others and make it flat. So the good years are good, but then there's also the opposite. The bad years are bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's all on you to make up those losses and claims. You can't leverage other people to smooth them out. So that was where the concept was. We had a lot of good years that we didn't get to get here at the district. So that's why they went, we could do better on our own. And we've been managing that here for.
So you would say we've had good years.
We've had mostly as anticipated years, I would say. When we look at the budget every year, we run pretty close to what our company projects. We're usually within a 98% of the projection of the budget. So I would say.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good year. Your projections were good.
Well, 10% increase is good, then yes. You know what I mean? It's subjective to what you're considering as a good indicator.
I'm just trying to get a handle on.
So I'm just saying is if we have a 10% increase and we meet our 10% increase, I'm not sure that's good.
No.
It's good that we didn't go supersede it, but we still had an increase overall.
That's where I was trying to get to
Yeah.
where, we self-funded, we went 5 years ago, made that decision. And the future trajectory of how things are going, is that still a good plan?
I don't think he analyzed what they were doing. or
Yeah,
what we're
I
doing
don't
now.
have, I just know talking through it, why we transitioned, that was the discussion to,
But you didn't keep, we didn't see, well, what
no, I
would we
could,
have
I
had
could,
each year?
I
You
could
just,
request what Lincoln Benefit Trust has
right.
as a package, but I haven't done that because that hasn't been an internal
Or
conversation
what
of us
the,
moving
what the
that.
history's been since we left
Yeah.
or whatever.
But most of the districts that I'm in communication with would share that.
So most other school districts go the other way.
Most districts, part of the Lincoln, like our intermediate unit, are part of the Lincoln Benefit Trust. Probably a handful that aren't. Or one.
Is it because they're bigger districts, they have more?
No, I think us, Bermudian, trying to think of anybody else, there's like one or two others that aren't part of it.
I'm just trying to get an idea, but most school districts are doing it. Why do they? And if they're not, which we seem to be in the minority, and so I'm just trying to understand the perspective, that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Slide then. All right, so here's the breakdown of the heavy increases for, that's in the budget expenditure lines. So the second autism classroom that we talked about, the teacher is at the top of the salary schedule. Two TAs are not. So they're within, whatever a TA would start at. So that's what the second autism classroom entails. Lincoln Intermediate Unit, we talked about this plenty. They have restructured how they're handling stuff. That's why we're bringing back the autism classroom. They're focusing on higher tier needs. With that, they need more supports and they changed their rate schedule. Our projections, working with Carolyn on that, that's what our projections show as a special ed rate on this new. They sent us a spreadsheet on the new calculations and we put all of our kids in. That's what our increase is showing for upcoming. Cyber school tuition, that's on the next slide, but I'll just briefly talk about it here. We're still in that catch-up phase of where these kids are, how many kids are outplaced into cyber schools and what the cost is to catch us back up. If you remember last year, that was the biggest budget to actual deficit. I think it was almost $800,000 deficit between what was budgeted and actual cyber school. Now we still see, we're looking at a decrease or potential decrease under the new Act 47 rules, but we're still not up to where the projections are. So that's where this increase comes in. Utilities and contracted services, that would include Kelly Ed, Interstate, Price Transportation, all those have built-in percentage increases in their contracts. And then obviously utilities is self-explanatory for there. And then ACTI, we just got their budget, which the board will get a look at that at Monday's meeting. But within that, that's a $55,000 tuition increase here for. Thank you. Now that'll have to be approved by all the member districts to be finalized, but that just came in the end of last week, I think.
Steve, was that ACTI budget? What changes did you guys make to it?
Allied Health, they added a teacher that they broke up, made more Allied Health. It was the executive assistant, I guess, or.
Oh, he's gonna be the actual director when Sean leaves in June.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's like that position,
That position.
the superintendent record and something else, I think, we're like.
So you
biggest
just, so that you didn't make any change, I mean, you didn't like cut anything, you just proved it as is?
No, I mean, they have budget online and we can look at it if you want. It's,
They have a,
No, I'm saying what they presented you, did you make any cuts from it or did you guys all vote for what they presented
they
you?
pretty much, the JLC went with what was needed because of the fractional constraints and the decisions in order to move forward. ACTI, with the new director, with the new teacher for Allied Health, and maintaining the cost increases, that are maintaining that.
But there's nothing in there about expanding the program or where getting land or,
That's a conversation that through executive session we are having, and some information will be coming out pretty soon on that.
So executive assistant, what's the executive assistant?
That's what they call somebody who is fulfilling the new position when Sean leaves. He is the director, so they call it that till he slides in June.
yeah, remember they hired a support, like Sean couldn't He needed basically second in command, is that position, whatever they call that position.
So, but the new guy is in that position. The guy that's
The
gonna
new
be.
guy was the-
Dr. Payne will take over Sean's position, so they
Right.
added a
They
second.
say an assistant and then he will go to the director. Correct. Yeah.
So are you guys gonna cut that position? Or are you gonna refill it?
There. Okay, so I cannot answer that question because
Is it in the budget?
it isn't.
Both of them are in the budget?
Yes.
Let's make that known before everybody votes on it.
Which Sean will be here, he's gonna try to be here the voting session, get other districts he's trying to meet with. So we have him on the schedule for, I can't remember the date, but the voting session, like, he's gonna be here.
Is that the 19th? Anyway,
Here.
so the cyber school tuition,
20th.
is that, I know you've been contacting,
Mhm.
has anybody come to our cyber school?
Not that
From
I'm
over
aware
again?
of. I actually reached out to Laura today. She's still inputting all the letters that we've gotten back and that the cyber school has sent to her. She's having issues with one cyber school responding to her. So she's been back and forth with them a couple of times, but as soon as I have an updated number.
So you're reaching out to people and you're asking them to come to Thunderbolt Academy, or you're just
So-
mentioning that we have it?
I sent a letter to everybody in the district who is currently enrolled in an out-of-district cyber or charter school. So whether it's Vita or Montessori or one of the cyber schools, I sent them all an email and a survey asking if they were interested in coming back, if they would come in and talk to us, look at our online, if they were online. I actually got quite a number of surveys back. I was surprised. And most of them like the flexibility. If they want to come back, they'll reach out to us. But we have had a number come off our rolls because they were not in our district. So I'm still trying to track those numbers to see how many that is. But I'm also curious if we're going to get any students who are going to come off of somebody else's roles. So Laura and I are keeping in close contact, but I don't have a final number yet.
So when does it get discovered that they're gonna come off of our roll?
So with the new act that went into place this past year, parents have to now verify residency twice a year, November and March. And March was the first collection of that. And so that's where we're finding that we still had kids who we were paying for that don't live in our district, because previously cyber schools didn't have to verify residency once they went there. Like once they
Share
were
with
enrolled,
us. Yeah.
or they didn't have to share it with us.
They could just bill us for
They-
a
they
kid that
wanna-
moved to Gettysburg and
Yeah, so with.
To be fair to the cyber schools, because we catch this sometimes even in our own district, we will find kids that like no longer live here and we're like, you have to move to your district where you live now. So I want to be a little fair to the cyber schools, is that some of these families move.
now you say that.
I know, but you have to be fair to them because it happens to us. Some of these families are moving and they're not letting the cyber school know that they've moved into a different school district because parents don't really think about it. They're like, we're just having our kid maintain the same online schooling.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
and then to the question, we get notified when the cyber school finds out their residency verification that they're not ours. They'll withdraw them and we'll get a withdrawal notice.
Mhm.
So that'll go in effect when that happens,
How often do we have to pay the cyber charters?
monthly.
So we pay them monthly. So when, so you said November and March. Say a kid moves in December, they move to somewhere else. And on the March verification is when we pass it. Do we retroactively get refunded for the 3 or 4 months of tuition we paid? Or does
You
it?
can certainly try.
So what they do is they do a reconciliation every
Sure,
June, based off of the days the kid's there. If a kid would withdraw to, I'm going off of typical, so this is when this since this is new, we're not sure how that's gonna operate. But historically, what happened is if a kid would leave in December and they didn't know about it or didn't unenroll them, withdraw them until March, we might pay another 2 months, and then in reconciliation, we would get that money back. They would retroactively give it back and credit us, pay us our money back.
The other district.
So we invoice them based off of what they sent us and we reconcile back and forth every year. Under the new act, I can't tell you if it's missed from November to March, how that's gonna look if they don't know it ahead of time.
Are we tracking that internally in the business office?
So-
Do they, when they give us the report in March, do they say when their residency changed, or do they just tell us that they're no longer our student?
They just tell us they're no longer our student. We just get a withdrawal form that says they're no longer ours. And then they are now placed somewhere else. We take them off of our.
So then how do we figure out when they moved?
I think the
Oh, you
state is still trying to figure that out because we have to use the state document that they just came up with when they passed this.
And I'm not sure any of them dictate a date of when they.
Yeah.
So this is a
This
huge
is
step.
still so
in the
new.
right Direction,
Mhm.
but it's got a long way to go. That's why we still ask to advocate for some of our cyber charter reform.
And we still get updates periodically as they work through their own process that they're putting into place for us to follow. They being the state.
Yes.
Do we know yet who's going to do our cyber next year? Or we don't, when do we know that? By like August?
You mean which students?
Yeah, are going to be enrolled.
Some of them roll over from year to year and Dr. Naylor tracks that. And then generally by the beginning, late July, early August, we have a pretty set roster. It fluctuates some with kids moving in or deciding to come back face to face, but we have a pretty good idea.
It'd be nice to know if like he's aggressively telling people about our, if somebody wants to sign up for cyber, letting them know about our cyber school.
I know building leadership does.
Okay.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
is helpful now too, with part of the new law is that if students are habitually absent, they just can't move to a cyber school as well. So
Right.
that also helps us trying to work with families in-house.
Yeah, I remember.
Sorry, Donna.
Okay. Just a, kind of a clarifying question on the second autism classroom. We have one teacher and two TAs,
Mhm.
teacher's assistant.
Yes.
Okay, so we don't necessarily need to put an SEA in, two SEAs in there? Special ed assistant?
I think that we always just designate them as TA.
But they would be qualified.
Yes, they would be part of the special ed and yes, Dr. Grassi does interview them and takes them to the classroom, make sure that they're special ed capable.
And they get training.
And they get what?
Is
Some training.
Yeah,
there a difference in costs for salary?
no, they're exact same category.
Okay.
We don't have a different position for that.
Okay,
Yeah, but that 296 is top dollar salaries, not.
For the teacher, yes. So we'll touch on this, so we touched on this a little bit. So the LIU, like I talked about, they revamped their services and that's what spit out. We have been pretty flatlined up until this point of what our special ed costs are. So Carolyn's done a great job of keeping our costs flatlined on that. This is just more or less out of our control of how the IU is restructuring and rehandling that special ed services. And then cyber charter school, this is where I was talking about highlighted 24-25. If I believe correctly, I was like 2.45 million was the budget for 24-25. The actual came in at 3.1. So that was that huge gap. This current budget is 2.7. And then, like I said, next year, the anticipated growth, we're expecting to get some back, but that's where that $200,000 increase is for that.
So wait, go back to under the LIU contracted services, you based the increase on the 2025-2026 budget? Not like a,
No, so
Talk about
this
how many
increase is
students we
they revamped their whole rate schedule. They sent it tenants moved it to it, then the IU sent it out, business managers to review it, special ed directors to review. But with that, they sent a spreadsheet of all the rate sheets and our current kids enrolled, and then we can put in projections for next year too. So Carolyn has all those meetings. She knows how many kids will most likely be placed in those, and we use that. Now, we can't project any kids coming in or going, but that's our best projection. If they age out, we take them out. If we know kids that are moving up into the program, we put them in. And that was their tool they gave us, and that's what spit it out But we had budgeted, it's an extra $260,000.
Going back to that autism, the second autism room, did Carolyn say that it's already full?
Yes, there's already 8 children
Okay.
slotted to be in that room, yeah.
And are you projecting potential autism rooms for the future?
That's a year-to-year basis, but more than likely, yes.
More than that.
You have projected.
No, because when she meets with families that know how many, whether or not we can accommodate those in current to the 2 classrooms, or if we have to do extra, that's a year to year. So right now, we have those 2 classrooms just to address elementary, because that's where we know those kids are.
Do you have a grade level breakdown?
I think most of them are K1, 2, if I believe correctly. All the new ones coming in are K/1, and then the ones moving up are 1 and 2.
So are we assuming that the other school districts are never going to have an opening for us ever again?
I would say it would be highly unlikely.
I would say based on the current trend, that would be.
They are opening classrooms themselves because they don't have enough room to support their own kids, just like us. We don't have enough room to support 8 incoming kids. I don't know if you saw the newspaper a couple weeks back about Tonawanda Valley. They're increasing all kinds of special ed salaries because they're in the same boat. They were putting them out, now every district's taking them back in. They
The
just have
state's
nowhere
going
else
to have to do something about this if it's going to keep increasing.
They have historically not given much in special ed funding.
Have we talked to Chris Marchese and the LIU folks about why they're getting out of the autism support business?
Yeah, we were under an old model. I would say most IUs transitioned to having what we call tier 1. I think it's tier 1 within your districts, and they focus on the higher tier need students and being able to service them. Our IU held on to the older model of doing everything, and then they couldn't sustain it anymore. They were losing teachers, they were losing programs, districts were bringing it back because it was cheaper. So they revamped the whole thing, and now this is a product of that revamp of all the member districts saying, we're going to bring them back in-house because it's cheaper. We want you to do the higher tier needs because we can't support them in-house.
They had a huge teacher problem constantly.
Yeah,
That was just a product.
And a
of-
management.
so they're
problem,
really
too.
focused.
They had a
on
big
tier
management
3.
problem.
Yeah,
That's where the focus was. That was county superintendents, I shouldn't say tri-county superintendents came together and said, that's what we need the IU to move towards.
Well, Al's not here, but I think it's definitely something we need to look at with the county superintendents and the IU superintendents. That if the IU specifically isn't going to do it, I think that we have got to try to figure something out in terms of a program that we could potentially get some cost benefit by putting in something together, because it's just
Not sustainable for
not sustainable for
everybody.
our district and for everybody to just have to keep adding and adding and adding
Right.
in-house classrooms. When like, obviously there would be there's a need for the IU to provide this service, but they can't do it. So I think that the districts really need to come together in some manner to try to help figure this out, because I don't see how we can continue to put this on the back of our budget.
And the state's going to have to come up with something.
Yeah, has the
So
state, has there been any state grants
It's
or
been-
funding towards the
There's no grants.
So
autism
say
realm?
special ed wise, I know Carolyn has worked on a handful of them, mostly with the help of the foundation. To get some of those, because some of them we don't qualify because they need to be a charitable organization. So we
Right.
do partner with the foundation to get some grants. There's obviously PCCD that we leverage for our behavior specialist that helps out. Other grants, not so much. Some of them we don't qualify because some of them were too small. Some of them we don't have enough student population to meet those requirements. I know some of that. But the other, I just lost my train of thought.
Grants.
Well, I was gonna go somewhere else with it now. So we'll go, if I remember, I'll come back to it.
So Carolyn has looked into grants or?
Yes, yeah, so every year we look at it now, obviously PCCD is meritorious, we know we're gonna get that, we apply for that every year. That's the behavior specialist from the ESSER funding that's been going on. Next year's no exception, that's another rerouting of that position through PCCD funding and grant funding there. So I just know that that's the new model that most IUs have moved to. We did have to scope. There is an Adams County consortium, but like I said, they're running out of seats and that's pretty much what's non-existent. As seats are open, they do float it out, just like if we would have a seat would open, we float that out to a member district and say, hey, we have an opening, we can support a kid. But they're just few and far between now.
A consortium of autism support?
Just special ed services with Adams County. Just New York County has some other opportunities, but Adams County was somewhat of a outside. So all the districts came together and try to support that. So like I said, it was part of it. We got to leverage it for a few years as a supplement to the IU. Now that's just been less and less each year. It's opportunities.
Was it less expensive for us when we had our autism children in the LIU?
No, that's why most
Well-
districts brought them back in-house because it's cheaper to do it.
That's what I'm saying.
The problem is just finding qualified teachers,
Oh.
and qualified aides.
That's a nutrition problem.
If we have to keep adding classrooms and paying salaries and stuff like that, it's
Yeah.
getting more and more expensive now this way.
Dr. Berryman, is this just going, is this across every district is seeing such an uptick in kindergarten autism?
This is a
National.
statewide.
It's Kate, yeah. It's,
I remember what's
Actually a national problem.
Yeah, the state was looking at if you remember, they did basic ed commissioning. Where they went around and looked at basic ed subsidy. They were trying to do a special ed one. It's been, I think, 10 years or so since they've done one. They just haven't done it. When that happens, we'll see a huge funding structure like we did with basic ed where they reroute it to Ready to Learn. They've done a whole different calculation. Our base now is way up here and they run off calculations off of that. But we haven't got there. So when they start a special ed commission, that's when the state is going to get serious about the special ed problem. When that happens, I'm not sure.
Do we know if we're reporting the number of special ed students receiving services in a timely fashion so that we're getting the proper funding?
So that's an annual report. It's called Act 16, and that's something we do annually. And
Right.
yes, there's a lot of dollars tied to that. So yeah, we look at that pretty heavily. They
Okay.
tier them, I believe, 4 tiers based off of how much services each individual student incurs.
So let me ask you this question. They only do that annually. What happens when, kids don't learn annually. Kids learn throughout the entire school year. So if we identify, because we know we do, we identify kids mid-year or quarter of the way through the year or what have you. And next thing you know, if that kid is struggling and they identify as a special needs or special education student and they qualify for services through FAPE, then we have to put them in the appropriate classroom with the appropriate services. They don't wait until the next year when we get funding. So do we ever go back and identify, say, 6, 10 kids, whatever, mid-year were identified for services? Do we go back to the state and say, look,
It's,
we got 6 kids that got half a year
it's
service?
always retroactive. So if we report to the state, we'll report this year's, I believe in October, and the funding will come out to the following. So it's always retroactive. We look, basically when our October 1 student report, we look backwards at Act 16, capture all those,
Okay.
report it to state, but then the state doesn't pay us the following year for those. So it's always a retroactive look of our, any of those movements.
Maybe we need to have some reform like we did with the cyber charter schools.
We
There
still
has
need
been-
more of that.
Yeah, there's been talks about special ed for many years. The state has just not taken it up.
Mhm.
Kicking it down the road.
Yeah.
Now it's
The
get,
state needs to address it.
and readdress cyber school. Cyber charter.
So here are the cuts and attrition that we made. So Dr. Berry and I talked at length, and one of the attritions is we've had a recent discussion about an LPN position here at ACES. We would look to attrition that out as a current vacancy. So that is out of the budget for next year. One of the other items was a library, middle school, high school library aide. That is attrition out. And then the next subsequent ones were all the movements within each individual budget that we either cut from discussions or just a reduction due to moving to an actual. So I can keep to mind tax collection fees. Their fee schedule has slightly decreased, so those are decreasing costs. There was a current membership that I was part of that I don't use as much that I'm going to cancel. I know For Dr. Raymond's, there were some books we bought and some resources that they aren't going to be renewed. They're just the one time. So that is a reduction. So we did identify 235 through those budget meetings between cuts or reductions. So
Those curriculum books and resources is something the teachers didn't want.
So with the Ready to Learn that we got this year, I was able to, and I think that might be on, it's definitely in my budget narrative when you guys get your packet.
that's going to be.
But I was able to allocate funds to the Ready to Learn for a lot of our resources. And definitely through CCMP, we've talked about streamlining our resources and not just having a lot of different ones. So we've been working really hard to make sure we don't have a bunch of different subscriptions to different things that are doing the same things. So some of that is a result of just trying to streamline and then also moving some stuff to the Ready to Learn.
So for some of these that are, like you said, well, it was a one-time buy, like these golf carts that aren't even bought, they've never been bought. Those aren't actually cuts from previous year budgets. Those
No.
are just
These are cuts.
things we're not going to spend money on.
Placeholders, right?
No, these are requests that people requested in their budgets that we cut. Some of last year when we talked about what was happening
So
within
it's
those
just
budget
something
meetings.
that came out in the budget process that people wanted and you said no?
Correct, that
That's
was,
not a budget cut. That's just you're doing the budget process.
Well, my
and you
book
said
and
no.
resources were.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's
some-
real.
So yes, some of them were requests. So like the athletic is a prime example, was a request that was cut. That's why I have reductions and cuts. These are ones that they requested. We analyzed them and then we went back and we removed those as a cut.
So the PSBA, what are we gonna do when we do our policies? Those-
PSBA, that is just the.
Hand slap,
Yes.
the $5,000
Yeah,
hand slap for coming back
we're
in
coming back.
SBA after we left.
That's,
It's a
is
reduction.
that every year that we're with them, they keep slapping us?
No, that was a one time and then
One time.
back down. Same legal fees we put back down. We increased them. Now we're bringing them back down, back to 2025. And then there's some dues that, like I said, that we look at every year. Are the memberships we want to be part of, or are these things we still want to keep going on? So most of the things up there are reductions. I think the only two that are cuts are the staff request for the middle school, high school, and the golf carts. Everything else was in the budget that was a true reduction.
In the budget you created before you presented to us.
No, these were part of
Last year's budget?
everybody's that presented their budget within our internal budget meetings that they either reduced themselves or we internally reduced.
Right, but it's a budget we hadn't seen yet. It was in last year's. and-
So normally we would have more time to get through this, but since we're in April, this is all one stop.
Right, and I'm saying you created a budget with them and you said no to some things
Yes,
before you presented us with the budget that we're looking at. So
correct.
that's not.
But that happens every year.
Okay, but to me, a cut is, we had it in last year's budget. We wanted it in this year's budget and we said no. You know, does that make more sense? You know what I mean? Like, it's something we always have, like your
An
membership
actual
thing,
cost saving.
like your membership or subscription, and this year we're saying no. That, I accept that's a cut.
Is that the
If
17.5
somebody
for golf
told
carts
you
was
it's something
never
for
a
golf
thing?
carts and you said no, I don't call that a cut. I call that a budget discussion that didn't make it into the budget.
We can take it one step further because the golf carts are 17.5. And the next page, you're adding a zero turn mower for 17.2.
That's a,
I'm sorry, I'm just showing you the math. I mean.
Yeah.
So,
that's a normal process of the school. So when one gets attrition out, there's another person out of need.
so can we have an honest conversation? Do we really need a zero turn mower? I mean, maybe we do. I don't know. I haven't been to the maintenance.
That's up to the board to decide. That's a request that made it through the budget to then take to the board, just like these cuts that we're showing. They got brought up, they did not make it to the board. We're just showcasing. I'm not,
Do we have any of our other mowers like don't work anymore or, I mean, do they have any? I'd just like to know if there's any backup documentation in regards to their requests. Like I would hate to cut the high jump landing pad. That could be serious problems. But the zero turn mower, if our other mowers are still working, I mean, if this is a lifespan expectancy problem and that's why they're putting in requests for a new mower because the other mowers are really old. Well, if they're still working, I mean, you know, it's kind of hard. And then the other thing is maintenance contract extension from June to December for $30,000. We're adding that in. Didn't we previously have a maintenance
So that was
contract for June to December?
project that was supposed to end in June. The request was to extend it because of all the moving parts over the summer. Current grant work that's gonna happen, so that was to help alleviate Victor's time that he was designated towards the project because he couldn't manage the maintenance department and do the project as part-time, as the half-time construction manager. So half of his time was construction manager up there, and we need somebody to be able to keep going being our facility manager. So the board hired a facility manager to offset half Victor's time that he was spent on the project. So with this, with the movement, we're gonna be moving all of middle school up. And we have all the great work that's happening over the summer that still needs Victor's attention. The request was to see if we could extend him 6 months to get us through that phase. Because he's been a support to the district and he's been very helpful because he is a previous facility man that came to us from Fairfield through a Haspel organization. So we had it, it was just funded through construction, which no longer had to be supported with general fund. That's where the request comes in.
I know this seems like we're attacking you, and I don't mean it to sound like that. It's just a real question of the actual dollars.
Like I said, we sat through every budget meeting. These are just a few things that came up as a request to make it to the board level.
So last year, we outsourced the budgets, transportation. Where is all our savings from that?
So a lot of those were one-time savings because all the salary benefits got attributed to the actual cost of the contract. So the savings we got was the bus sale, which was reflected last year as the sale. And we saw some decrease in our well, the fuel we already pulled down,
Well, they were our employees and now they're not our employees.
yeah, but all their salaries went to fund the contract. The savings we saw was mostly through those one-time, plus we'll get some state bump with their services. They're also retroactive, so we'll see the biggest bump in the following year. So we have some of that built in there. So just the contractual obligations of the movement is kind of the difference in there. So that was part of the last slide when we showed contractual obligation. I said Christ has a percentage increase. That's part of that 80,000, that small increase in that. But fuel savings, we already reduced out of the budget, some of the reductions. It just isn't highlighted here. Our liability insurance, that's what I was trying to say. It's our insurance. We don't have to cover those vehicles anymore. That reduced our liability. That's already reflected in these numbers. So some of these this isn't a all-encompassing list. This is just some of the few things that we highlighted here.
Okay, so when the middle school, high school project started, we were told that we were gonna have a lot of savings because we're not gonna be paying for that middle school, electricity, all the utility, all that stuff, maintenance, everything. Where is the analysis of all our savings we're gonna start doing every year?
Until the
And
middle school.
and when you combine them, until the middle school what?
Until the middle school would not be a district like responsibility, then we have it. So we have a projection, but I'm not sure when that's gonna come.
But if we're not gonna be using it starting the next school year, which is this budget.
So we still have to maintain a certain level of heat, so the pipes don't
Yeah, but we're gonna
freeze.
have a lot less. We should have cost savings.
But some of that cost is still going to the high school. It doesn't just go away, it just gets reattributed up to the high school. So we did have air conditioning. We wanted air conditioning in the building. That's a large increase in electricity costs. So we will see some. It's just not a lot because all the electricity that we're going to save from middle school is now going to high school.
So there's no analysis of what it is, we're
We
saving
have-
here and adding here.
We don't have an actual number until we get everybody up to high school. We have an anticipated number between, like we talked about staff inefficiencies, all that, any of attrition we can have through that. That's going to happen in future years. It's just not sure when.
So you're saying the staff efficiencies aren't going to, they're gonna flush out as we
In-
go along.
In future years, yes. most likely will be 27, 28 when we have a full year to be able to analyze those. We have discussions on those constantly. It's just so unknown how that's going to play out once we have all those together to be able to accurately predict those in this recent budget.
Has the admin been doing like a analysis of like multi-year enrollment trends? As to, I mean, obviously, we're seeing a decrease.
Right, so that was one of the thing, we look at staffing all the time. And when we were going through the budget yet again a few weeks ago, looking at it, pulling the enrollment numbers at the elementary next year. Now we're still working on K enrollment for next year, but we'll be around 705, 715, give or take, at the elementary school, and around 965 at the secondary school. So when you look at that, and we have 2 RNs and an LPN with a district of around 1,700 kids, that's where we were taking a look at, we don't necessarily need a 4th LPN because we can have 1 LPN or a second LPN, but a 4th overall nurse, because we would have enough with the 3 of them to staff district. We took a look at the support staff. Last year, we took the one from over here, the one in transportation, did some combining of some duties up at the high school. I apologize, with Cindy. So we do take a look at that. Last year, we didn't replace a middle school math teacher, having Justin come down and teach, Mr. Staub come down and teach 7th and 8th grade math. So we didn't have to replace math. So yes, we look at staffing constantly. Anytime there's a retirement, if somebody leaves for another job, if it's a position that, so talking about enrollment, and we continue to look at those, if somebody leaves, we see if we actually need to fill that position.
So how have our class sizes changed?
Middle school's got that bump this year with that 6th grade group being really big. So everybody's still lower elementaries in the 16 to 22 range per class, and then 3, 4, 5s probably in the 23, 24. And then the high school really fluctuates depending on what class you're taking, but.
And to the point with every attrition we have, we've also had a position we had to then fill. The autism is like same example. We're gonna reduce an LPN, but we're gonna add 3 more positions, a teacher and 2 TAs. So we're always, when one goes down, another one usually takes place. So we have been maintaining that for a couple of years now, where every attrition we've have made, there's a reason to add a staff somewhere else. The same thing with like your mower. We saw a savings somewhere, but then it's coming in as a replacement somewhere else. That's just how the district has been, the circumstances we've been under.
Is the transportation department just Laura Mace here?
Yes, she's the transportation director, oversees all the CRICE. She also in charge of all the child accounting. That's why she does.
But it's our only,
Yes. So with the transition to CRICE, she's our only person that's designated to transportation.
she's our only employee that we have left. Transportation, okay.
We have a maintenance person for that, for transportation.
He retired right before we went
Okay.
outsourced. Yes.
What is that?
So like we just talked about the next slide. So the extension, we talked about just all the moving parts over the summer and the fall. That was the request to keep Howie here for 6 months due to his expertise and be able to jump all the things that a facility manager can do to support that department while, like I said, Victor's going through all that grant work and the finalization project these next months. That's a board decision. If that's in, those numbers I reflected earlier to show this in, all these items in, so it would reduce if these would be taken out.
Tell me again how much grant work he has?
He has the high school, so he has all the lower level, the blue gym, HVAC. They had the windows that's currently happening. There's another item the classrooms that we still have to address there. And then you have to start working on, with contractors to start working on this one, this grant work here. So it'll flow right into the next one where he has to start working on, him and I both work on looking at those contracts, having the contractors walk through, working through that.
This high jump thing, that's the big like cushion that they jump over thing. There's no, cause like the athletics doesn't have any room in their budget to absorb that.
Do we
No,
really,
we would have done so if there was.
do we really need a new one? Or is this we don't have one and this is,
This is
Gonna give us-
be a new one.
Yeah, this is due to the aging of the current existing high jump. The request to replace that.
But so like every year, or I know that certain years, they do New Jerseys, they do like all that type of stuff.
We have a rotating schedule for all uniforms. So that was something I put in place with Shelley, was to create a 5-year cycle to flatline those costs for all uniforms. So when football would hit, that was a standalone, and then all those other sports that are a little less uniform intensive, because football is the highest, would be a flat line or the most static you could have. And that's what we've now turned into. As you have noticed the past few years, I've always asked for an equipment cycle to get an allotted amount that we can replace. Equipment cycle, that's just a natural thing we can do, and we don't have to go through. One of the departments that doesn't have that is maintenance. Some of that was funneled through capital projects previously, and that's been a transition internally to move that back into general fund to put capital projects to larger ticket items rather than just equipment.
How much do we do in uniforms every year?
It depends on the year, but give or take between 20 and 25,000.
So could we, well, like, what's the next sport that's up?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Maybe.
So we don't look at this stuff to see if it needs to be
Wasn't I-
replaced, we just do
I
it every.
For some reason, I thought
Say
that I,
We don't look at this stuff to see if it needs to be replaced, we just do it every certain year.
Every
number of-
five years, each sport would have a replacement of uniforms due to wear and tear.
We can, I don't know if Judy's looking that up, but if we could at least have Jeff report. out
We
on
can
that
say
next
something,
week.
you can have that Monday, yeah. I just don't, I could pull it up, but
Cause that could create a situation, like if the next sport up doesn't need them, we can press pause for a year. And then we've got $25,000 to do something with, working on a high jump or whatever else they can.
I just caution that then the next year could be 50,000 because you pause 1 year. Then you have to look at that every year to see.
Oh, well, everybody, I'm just saying, everybody would pause, like we don't do any uniforms and then we start back with rotation.
All right, so here's the 3-year projection, including upcoming year. So like I talked about the assumptions, and the revenue side is 0% tax increase, a 0.5% assessed value increase, and 1% other. So that includes EIT, the interest, state, all federal. The only thing that's flat is Ready to Learn grant. Because that has been dynamic, and that was only a 7-year, which would be pretty much within this scope of when that happened. That was the anticipated. State was a 7-year plan to address the funding lawsuit. That 7 years would be in that 28, 29, I believe.
So a significant portion of our state funding comes through that Ready to Learn.
So we only get about $500,000, give or take, a year extra. Now, it would, all the other state funding, so like PSERS and everything else that may be going down is getting 1%. So that could be a difference. So basic ed subsidy has not been 1% the past couple of years. So it's a difference of whether we place it here or not. And we can look and see if that I can look and see if that down. That's just the revenue projections. If you saw that at the top, it shows what the projections are. And then same thing with expenses, current contractual percentage increases for teachers, admin, and support staff. Very conservative 5% healthcare increase. Like I said, it's been I believe, since I've been here, 6%, 8%, 10%, 10%.
Yeah, so why did you, just a question, are we thinking it's gonna be 5% when?
That was
more likely
just,
it'll be
that
10?
was because, the numbers start getting drastic if we start adding the percentages, because that's one of our highest expenses is health. Some of that also is because negotiation of those contracts happen in those 3 years.
So,
Whether or not we have the healthcare we currently have, that's yet to be determined, so that 5% is just a placeholder.
so would it be fair to say what you're telling me then is the deficit column could be a lot higher if we were to look at the actual, well, I say actual, the possible cost of 10% health insurance?
Yes,
But it's also possible that it'll be much lower with state funding increases if they come. It's like,
so.
it could go
Uh,
drastically, it could go either way.
So the state would only
It would
increase
probably trend.
6 to 800. It's typical what the state may or may not give us, so it'd be 6 to 800,000 a year for each of those years.
So either way, you're assuming one way or the other.
What I'm saying is that 6 to 800,000 would then be reflected in healthcare. Also, like if we raise 5%, it would be that or maybe beyond. So this is a generalized decent picture of what the next.
This isn't,
Add revenue,
Isn't-
we're gonna add expense.
What'd you say?
this isn't decent. This does not look decent to me. It looks.
No, I'm saying as a projection assumption,
Hmm?
the deficit needs to be addressed. That's why I said that's gonna be the discussion. We have to at least talk about 26, 27. We don't have enough unassigned fund balance. We either have to move assigned fund balance to make it work. We'll have to make some cuts. We'll have to do something to make it work under the current budget that was presented.
Well, but here's the thing, you're not taking into consideration the houses being built. You're not taking into consideration enrollment going down, and we're gonna have to make changes. You're not taking into consideration cost savings for the middle school, high school, consolidation. I mean, there's a lot of things. Revenue, you're keeping basically flat, and expenses, you're just completely increasing constantly without,
So with
except
revenue
taking
coming,
golf
or
carts out.
with enrollment going down, the staff is still here. Unless they're retirement, we still have the obligation to have the staff. That staff just doesn't go away just because enrollment starts trending down. There has to be a retirement and attrition that we make those happen. So unless it's a known retirement, and most of the known retirements are replaceable positions that we need to replace. Unless we start looking at some programs, we have to restructure those people. That's the current reality. We don't have many attritional ones that can just flat reduce the budget. With enrollment, like I said, if it's going down, that's something we look at constantly, if that position can be restructured to address that. But right now, the main factors are it's not looking possible. From a revenue standpoint, we don't have much revenue increase. The state gives us a little bit, 800,000. That's not touching the deficit we're currently facing. And the reality is our tax base is slowing in growth. We are capturing those houses. We're not capturing the future houses, but I can put that in there. It's just not going to be the increase that we're expecting it to be. The difference is just too large. We're going to have to work through that.
Part of the issue is padding of deficits. Might not be, I think there needs to be data to the decisions. And I think we need to see some of that data in order to be able to state what more actuals might be and not projections.
Then that's what the request was. We can project whatever the board wishes. We just have to have a projection to go off of.
How much do we put in the capital fund balance this year?
That depends year to year.
What was it most recently? 3 million something?
No.
So the last year was 475, which is the land sale to support the athletics. The athletic improvement.
475,000 period?
Yep, that was what we put in capital reserve last year. And then this upcoming year, the land sale would go through, would be 275 to support the athletics.
The year before this past year was the 3.2 for the grant project.
No, it was, yes.
That's what I'm thinking of. How much of that money is still left in that account?
There's 6.1 million left in the account.
So what's the possibility of moving some of that money out back into,
That would.
General
be
fund.
full Board action.
I get that, but what's the possibility of that?
That's
That's the
full
commit-
board decision
that's-
to do that.
That's up to our committee to recommend and for the full board to take action on.
Okay.
How we want to address the deficit.
I would say I would recommend using general fund assigned fund balance before capital reserve. Those are earmarked for large capital projects in the future. Or wishes that can move that money.
Well, you can always, large capital projects in the future, it's very fluid, that things are always changing. And with enrollment decreasing and expenses increasing and revenue pretty much not increasing very much at all, something's gotta change. And I mean, we're looking right now, if these numbers are pretty close to accurate, and I believe that they are, because you're pretty good at this, we're looking at a $7 million deficit in 4 years. That's huge. Something's got to change.
The current between the capital reserve
Mhm.
and the assigned and unassigned fund balance, we have over $18 million. 6.1 million of that is earmarked for the building.
Yep.
The,
The high school, you mean?
for the high school.
Okay.
So then that's approximately after that, you've got 6.6 and some change left in assigned and unassigned general fund, and about 6.2 actually in the capital reserve.
Yeah, and then 1.5 of that would be, we need as collateral for being self-funded for health insurance.
Mhm.
So we would not want to touch that.
700,000 in the ACTI.
Yep.
There's 750,000 that was our surplus from last year that was put as a placeholder in a future athletic projects, which could be a good place to pull from. There is
We should have more than
One-
700,000 ACTI.
the-
Should have a million in there.
That was just,
there's 1.5 million in the healthcare, like Tom said. There's 500,000 in the tech reserve. And 3.3 in the unassigned fund balance.
and then the capital project side, 3.2 of that is grant projects. 750 of it was for the baseball, softball.
Yeah.
And then we have, in the next 3 to 5 years, we have the turf that may or may not need to be replaced, and the same thing with the track.
So really,
We also-
But the
we also have the-
750 was the mark for the track.
No, 750 was earmarked for baseball, softball improvements.
No, not out of the capital reserve. I'm saying the other 750.
Oh, that can be transferred to capital reserve. It's for district improvements with the definition of athletic improvements, because that's the most. Then we also have the roof replacement we deferred here with the grant. That was about 1.4 million within the 10-year plan. Those are the big numbers that we would have in the next 3 to 5, could we look at 5 years as a capital project cycle? Every year we look at that. And then that, it doesn't include any wear and tear that we have that have to be replaced. Like we have steel coating, the lines, painting, we have the security cameras, other things that need capital projects that we have earmarked, but what year they hit depends on.
So let's-
So the year before last, it was a $3.2 million surplus. What was the projected deficit?
I think it was only like 800,000, and a lot of that was because so we went from about 800,000 to 1.2 million to that 2 million. Now we're up to 3.4. So they've been almost steadily increasing at the same amount every year.
So we did the 3.2 and we put the 3.2 into the capital reserve fund. Last year we had what, about 1.5?
Yeah.
And then where did all of that go?
So 475 of it
750.
went, 475 of it went to capital reserve. The rest went to either ACTI or the athletics, and a small portion went to unassigned to bring it up to 8%.
So all that money is sitting somewhere. None of it's been spent. We still have.
All of it's been more or less earmarked by the board.
And like superintendents that we've known, said, you know what you know when you know it. Now we know we have the mental health, we have the autism, we have the athletics and different things that are earmarked for improvements. And we got to figure out what's wrong, I guess, how to make it so we can keep providing services and running this thing. So we are in a place where there's a lot of conversations that happen.
I don't think we need to worry about a deficit for the near future, looking at these numbers. Excuse me, not a deficit, surplus, looking at these numbers. They're just too high.
So you have a proposal?
I think we need to start making cuts.
Like,
I can come up with a list and get it to you, but I mean, right off the top of my head, I don't have it right now, but I'm telling you, look at the numbers. It's just,
it's huge, but that's just where we have to get to is we have to come up with a plan of
Okay.
what gets cut. It's so, and I'm not disagreeing with you. But we have to, it's easy just to say cuts, but we have to
no, I get that.
identify cuts.
I get that. I can give you cuts right now. You want a list? Let's get rid of the mower. Let's get rid of I can give you, it's just a quick
Well, I
list.
mean, those aren't even cuts. Those are additions that similar to the golf carts where those are gonna be.
Been identified though, okay? They've been identified, but really, I mean, it's okay to sit here and laugh now, but it's really not a funny subject. It's as serious. And this is gonna affect not just our students and our, not just our students and our employees, but it's really gonna seriously affect a high percentage of the people that live in this county because a lot of the people that live in this district are retired. I mean, it's just the way it is. We're just over the line. A lot of people from Maryland and et cetera come up here to retire and I think that's really a huge piece because that also speaks to our enrollment dropping because the people that are moving into this town or moving to live here don't necessarily have young families moving in, and they're not two-income families. A lot of them are retirees. So I think this is a huge piece. I don't know. I'll bring some ideas to our next meeting of what we can consider cutting, but maybe we could all do that.
Yeah.
Maybe we can all identify
Ideas and really.
some, yeah.
See. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step over you.
No, you're good.
Just send them, I'll send them out the projections as I get them and build them. So we're just gonna move on quickly because we're out of time here. So, actually jump one more slide. So the 3% increase that we saw was proposed, I think most people already saw that, was this 1-for-1 support those 2 autistic classrooms. So last year's was projected at the 270, I think, range. Actually, it's 245. This year's 290. And then we know that's at the highest, but that's still essentially a 1-for-1, 3% increase to support those long-term autistic support classrooms. Go ahead. So with that 3%, what's that get us? So we look at 0%, what I had at the beginning, 3%, that gets us $544,800. That removes our deficit back to a 1% of 436,000 a balance. So earlier we had 108. The recommendation here from the district is to do a 3% tax increase to support those autistic concerns.
How did it change from last week from like 3,000 negative balance to 108,000?
So every week we rerun numbers of states that come in. programs to the actual. And those are the new. estimates.
From Wednesday to the time,
Yes.
to the time that the
Yes.
agenda came out on Friday, what were the additions?
What were the additions? One was AC to that. 55,000. One was a rehire that wasn't captured last time. That's on a placement, is on here from a vacancy. Those are the types of movements that changed when we relook at it. So when I have a slide, Stephen calls me and I say it's not ready yet because I wait till the last minute to pull the numbers, update them. They're the most accurate numbers we can have before the meeting. I remember you called and I said it's not gonna be ready until the end of the day, because I wait till exactly close to the end of the day to pull those numbers to make sure they're the most accurate before they come out in the meeting. Those are the things that moved. So yes, there are moving parts, and this budget does move up until we set it in the June meeting. Now, I typically like to hold some of those if they're not large, because then they are constantly going and we always have new numbers. So usually when the proposed budget comes in May, if it's something minor, we don't reflect that, maybe not for June. But here, when we didn't even have a proposed one, we're gonna have all those changes up until the day, May's, and then June's, if there's something large, we'll look at that and we'll accommodate that and I'll notify. That's historically what I've done for the past 4 years from April, May, and June.
Yeah, but we usually start the budget process
Correct.
January.
That was a product of timing.
So with this,
Actually canceling 2 finance meetings.
so,
Timing?
Is out.
sorry.
What'd you say, Tony?
I was just kind of piggybacking on that. A product of timing, we missed 3 finance meetings, 3 months, and as a product of, it's,
I will say March, I was on vacation and I
That was too.
let,
you know, you're,
I let the board know ahead of time that months and months ahead of time, that was a pre-scheduled one. February was a board, I believe, cancellation, and we had January's
Had January's, February's.
and March
It's
is
not, February's was recommended to not even have by the admin when the meeting schedule, proposed meeting schedule was brought. We put it on as an if needed. And we didn't do it because of the search.
but Tom was only on vacation for a week. Even if he was on vacation for 2 weeks, we missed 3 months worth of meeting. 3 meetings.
We missed 2 meetings.
Didn't we miss November, February, and March?
No, we did November.
Budget usually starts in January.
Okay.
We did November, January. We missed February.
I think we waited too late this year to get into this because
Mhm.
these numbers they're gonna need a lot of work, and we only have this meeting and then one more FP&S meeting before we have to develop a solid budget.
When do we get the narrative and all the other stuff?
So
To let us
it
know
was
it's actually in
pending,
the budget.
it was pending this meeting, but they were scheduled to, I was scheduling myself to present Monday night with the packets and what's in and what's out. What was coming from this meeting,
Why would you present it Monday night?
because I always usually present the packet in April, so then they have the board has a
Yeah,
month to make
because we've
changes.
already changed it so that it's what we want presented to the full board.
So normally the budget starts in January internally. I usually don't present until February. And then March is usually,
Okay, so
we
March,
missed the March.
so March, April, we're sitting right now. Jeannie, with the current proposal of budget going forward, what are your thoughts? In other words, what are you thinking? Do you have enough information? Do you have enough time?
It can't stay in this current form. I still think revenues are way too understated, but if you guys want to be that conservative. Yeah, we've got to start looking at detail. I mean,
I sent it. As much as information I had, I sent.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, there's a lot that we've got to do with this. I don't think that this is ready to go out of committee to be voted on in the board. I think that we need to take a look at where our fund balance levels are, and we can offset tax increase, because at the end of the day, I talk to people, people's number one concerns, especially seniors, is property tax and school tax. And the fact that it always rises for 23 consecutive years in this district. Property tax rose. So I think that we need to take a hard look at that. We have an affordability crisis in the country and in Pennsylvania. And we can't control everything. We can't control gas prices. We can't control the Strait of Hormuz. We can't control everything that's going on. But this is what we can't control, and we have a responsibility to the constituents. So I think that there's a lot more work to be done.
Have another meeting. I think we might need to have another meeting, another committee meeting. I mean, more than next month. We have one scheduled already for next month, right? But I think we need another committee meeting.
So we recommend not moving this forward out of committee.
Oh, God, no.
And we will sit down and put a plan, and we will address these issues. Are there any other thoughts?
Just one more thing. It's not budget related, but in the presentation is the athletic bit, like the cover. So we can move forward with that.
Right now?
Yeah,
Fits.
the last line.
They're not going anywhere. It's last slide.
Yeah, this is just.
Came in way too high.
And we'll have one more topic that's on the agenda for.
And what are we gonna do with the maximum?
So right now, we had the original budget of 750,000. We went to feasibility and we had a design architect firm go to do all the permitting and design work. That brought us back down to 650,000. So remember, the committee had asked if those design fees were in and out. You said they were in. That made our budget about 650,000. Bids came in last week, or 2 weeks ago, I think at this point, almost double our budget. So the recommendation is we're gonna look to scale those back. But I just want to let the board know, because I know that you want an update on where that progress is. Right now, it's basically put back to the drawing boards of how we can do that. We have an internal meeting tomorrow to look at that scale down. When we have information that I feel is eligible to present to the board. Right now, the earliest time to mostly address baseball, softball would be next season. So it wouldn't come back around until fall.
Because we agreed that we would only use the land sale money for that, not,
Yes, and it came in above and
Yeah.
beyond the expectation, so we're gonna come back and look at that.
yeah.
But the earliest time to even address this would be not this upcoming baseball season like we hoped, it would be the following
You can
season.
fix the pitcher's mound.
So we'll look at that. We'll look at that and I'll come back with the scale version of what is the most urgent and what we estimate those costs to be. Some of that we'll look at
Gotcha.
and we'll see what that is.
Okay.
The last item was with the attrition of the LPN, we need to have a contractor service like we talked about. It would mostly be used this year to supplement that vacancy, and then next year it would be used as needed substitute if multiple nurses were out, like we had a situation last week, we had multiple nurses out. It would help supplement the staffing, also as reduced numbers.
It's kind of like what we have right now for security. If John is ever out, we can call on them if we need them. It's on an as needed.
And this is all in the
Basis.
current budget.
No, well, this.
Not this price,
Above and
This would
beyond.
be above and beyond.
Yeah.
way
It's
beyond.
a substitute.
Way-
Actually, the cheapest one that I found.
Yes.
And it's-
Danielle's been volunteering to fill it. That's why.
So yes,
Gotten
it's a
away with it.
significant increase just how to substitute. We're hoping that we won't need it, but we need somebody to run our health rooms if more than one person is absent using their.
We have to have somebody out on medical right now as well. So
Okay, so where are we gonna get the money for that?
we're what?
If we need to use this
I
contract,
haven't been paying an LPN all year.
We haven't been paying an LPN all year,
but
Using it as an attrition.
I thought he just said we don't have enough to cover
but
that.
we haven't paid.
We haven't paid an LPN all year.
Yes, for this year.
For this year, we have
For
money in the
next year,
budget.
yes, she's correct.
For next year, we're attritioning it out.
He just said I was right.
This year, and
I know what he's saying. I know what the budget is.
we're looking to have.
We're gonna pay for, this is a measure for the rest of this year to get through the year because we have 3 buildings to cover. The reason why they're taking away the LPN position that this would be covering is because we're going from 3 buildings to 2 buildings.
Right.
So they're not anticipating it being as big of a problem next year.
We were hoping it would be less than a handful of times a year.
Yeah.
Instead of 3 people covering 3 buildings, you're gonna have 3 people covering 2 buildings.
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah, we would anticipate we wouldn't use it heavily, but there
Yeah.
are chances that more than one person might be out any given day, that we might need it.
Will we have funds to pay?
That's our conversation.
See, I can't make these decisions. I don't know how.
You haven't made any decisions yet. He's only
Yeah.
proposing it right now.
Okay,
You're
but you
proposing-
want a direction from us?
The current need is for the remainder of this school year.
Right,
That is
Period.
a definite need.
It's on the agenda for this month to discuss and review as a full board.
And you can approve it just for this year.
Just for this year, which we haven't spent what's in the budget for this year.
Correct.
So we have it to cover it for the next month and a half if needed.
Correct.
But next year we're gonna have 2 buildings with 3 nurses, so.
So we're moving it forward.
Really, the need is just this,
Just this year.
just this year for right now.
All right.
Okay,
I make a motion to adjourn.
I just wanted, do you want us to move forward with looking at some dates between now and May 5th for another FPS meeting?
Yeah, we should probably do that.
I do, but that's
Okay.
the majority here.
Well,
We can get a communication out. Yeah, we don't have to do that right now. We'll get a communication out. I just want to make sure that doesn't fall.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
she said second.